So I was walking through my local department store yesterday and walked into one of the sections that has a few niche brands or more high-end brands in terms of price. And my intention actually was to see if they had the new Frederic Malle perfume Heaven Can Wait there, and unfortunately they didn't. Australia being Australia has to wait a bit longer for stuff like that. But I did come across a brand that I have talked very, very little about, if at all, on this channel, and that is Escentric molecules. And a lot of you will know about the Molecule 01, which is the ISO-E Super perfume, which is just ISO-E Super, and then all the subsequent releases after that. I did notice, though, in fact, that they had the new line out, which has actually been out for a couple of years, and I had not even heard about it until very recently when someone talked about it on Base Notes, and that is the M Plus line. Now, further reading tells me that M Plus is a line where Molecule 01, i.e. ISO-E Super, or I think this particular one is called ISO Gamma Super, and it is paired with a natural ingredient. So there's the Escentric line where ISO-E Super is paired with another aroma chemical, like, for instance, ambroxan or Jarvinol, or I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head. But the M Plus line is ISO-E Super, and in this particular case, is paired with ISO-E Super and Patchouli, or Mandarin, or Iris. So I picked up on a whim a sample pack of M Plus. These three have Patchouli, Iris, and Mandarin, and I'm actually going to do a sample unboxing. Look how exciting this is. I'm unboxing a sample pack. This is what it looks like. So they're all color-coded: Patchouli, Iris, Mandarin, funnily enough, in orange. I'm going to smell them. First impressions. Now, I have already sprayed a couple of these on my hand, and I'll talk about what they smell like on my skin. But I haven't smelled the Iris one yet, so I'll be doing that on camera for the first time. I need to also let you know, audience, that the reason I've never tested this brand or talked about it much on the channel is that I'm one of those people that is anosmic. When I smell this particular ISO-E Super on my skin, I can barely, if anything, smell it. Okay, like I have a little jar of ISO-E Super in isolation, and when I open that and smell from the jar, I can smell that. But as soon as it gets on my skin, it's like I've sprayed straight up alcohol, and that's it. So it's going to be interesting to see how these perfumes come off on my skin, and the difference between smelling them on a piece of paper to smelling them on my skin as well. So I'll do both. And what I might do is I'll start with the two that I've smelled on my skin already. And I'm going to start with Mandarin. So just to be clear, the bottle, the product says that it's purely ISO-E Super and the natural ingredient of Mandarin and Patchouli and Iris. So these come in 2 ml sample sprays. At least they're sprays, they're not dabbers, and 2 ml I find is the perfect amount to really test and wear extensively. I get a few wears out of a 1 ml, but it never seems enough, given how long sometimes it takes me to make a final opinion on a particular perfume. 2 mils is perfect. So I will wear these and test them properly. And I'm just going to spray some on my blotter and then compare what it smells like on my skin. Okay, so not surprisingly, I get a lot of mandarin orange on here. The problem is that I can't tell you how it is playing with the ISOE Super. Yesterday when I sprayed the mandarin on my hand, what I did notice, the 2 things I noticed the most were that this mandarin note is actually one of the best, freshest, juiciest mandarins I've smelled in any perfume. So that's a plus. I really like, firstly, how natural this mandarin smells, and also how long it lasts compared to other perfumes that use this as a main note. There's actually not a lot of difference to the way it smells on paper versus my skin, which is not a bad thing at all, because usually things do smell quite different on my skin compared to when I smell them on a blotter. But what I do, the plus for this particular perfume, the mandarin, is that it's a citrus that smells really natural, and I know from spraying it yesterday, lasts a long time for a citrus note. Now, what I'm going to do in further testing, because I am anosmic to ISOE Super on my skin, is actually make sure that I get other people to smell this on me, especially after it's begun to fade or I can't smell it at all. I'm just curious to see if other people are still smelling it on my skin way after I've stopped smelling it. But so far, it's a really nice smelling mandarin, very natural. I'm definitely going to enjoy wearing this when it's a bit warmer. But that's really all I can say about it. The next one I'm going to smell is the Patchouli one. And obviously, if you know me, I love patchouli as a note in perfume. It's one of my favorite ingredients. And, the perfumes I love with patchouli obviously are blended with other ingredients that give it a bit of complexity and depth. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays with ISOE Super. Just as I'm spraying this and thinking about what I'm smelling, it is probably a conversation more than a debate about whether this is actually perfumery, for starters. I'm not going to judge this immediately because, essentially if what you're marketing and selling as perfume are 2 ingredients, ISOE Super being widely used more for the way it, and a perfumer would be better placed to talk about this, but more for the way it amplifies other ingredients, which is what I think ISOE Super does really well. But at the end of the day, for people like me who have a lot of trouble smelling it, essentially what do I have here? I've got some patchouli blended in alcohol with another ingredient. I've got mandarin and I've got iris. I'm not sure how to feel about this as perfumery, inverted commas. This is a perfectly good smelling patchouli note that I'm smelling. The one very interesting thing that I will point out smelling both of these is that the mandarin actually smells bigger and feels like it projects a lot more than the patchouli does, which I find very interesting because patchouli is generally used as a base note, which generally means that it's there to last longer, that it's less volatile in terms of burning off the skin than mandarin is. But yet in this instance, in this particular product, it feels like the mandarin it projects more for starters. And actually, when I was smelling these on my hand yesterday, the mandarin lasted longer to my nose than the patchouli. So I don't know if it was a case of the ISOE actually extending the life of the mandarin, and with the patchouli it was taking it over, so I was smelling it less. So it's going to be an interesting experiment to see when other people can smell this on me. I mean, it's a perfectly fine, quite smooth patchouli. It doesn't appear to have a lot of the earthiness that some really good patchouli perfumes has. It definitely accentuates the woodiness of this patchouli. But it's unmistakable, that I'm smelling patchouli. So it's more woody, definitely, less damp and less earthy. All right, so the third one I'm going to smell for you here is the iris, and this will be interesting because, as you may know, iris is not, I don't dislike iris, I just find it difficult to wear perfumes or like perfumes that are iris dominant. So let me just grab a blotter and I'll spray this iris on there, and then I'll find some skin I can spray it on. Okay, so I actually quite like this iris note that they're using in this fragrance. Now, they make a point of saying that the iris used with the ISOE Super in Molecule 1 plus iris is Iris pallida. Now, I don't know if that's just a common version of iris that is used in most iris perfumes, but I just wanted to point that out. So this iris, again, like the patchouli, is actually quite woody. It's very smooth. It's very refined, and it's what it doesn't have is all that powdery makeup lipstick association that iris generally has. But it's also not as textured and earthy as orris butter can be as well. It's like this kind of in-between state. I actually don't mind this at all. I'm going to spray it on my skin and see what it's like. Now, this one, compared to the other two, is actually different on my skin to the blotter. On my skin, there is this unusual kind of citrus aspect to this iris that I've never picked up before with any other iris perfume. And that's actually pretty interesting to me. It's almost, what's the word I'm looking for? That's really strange. It is, I don't know where this is coming from, but there is almost like a cola vibe to this iris and ISOE Super Blend. Now, there should be no other materials being used based on what the brief is for this line, but I don't hate it at all. I actually quite like it. When I was reading a little bit about these perfumes, what I like to do is go on Perfume or Fragrantica and check to see, when people vote and say what seasons these perfumes are best suited for. Predictably, like the votes for the Patchouli ones. Patchouli one was for, sort of colder seasons like autumn and winter, and the Mandarin one, obviously for the warmer seasons. But I was very intrigued to see that a lot of the votes for the Iris perfume were for the warmer seasons as well, like spring and summer, and that intrigued me, and I was interested to see what it would be like when it's on my skin. And funnily enough, I can smell that it's definitely Iris, but it's definitely got a different characteristic about it on my skin, and it does have this kind of citrusy facet that maybe is why people are feeling like this isn't a good perfume to wear in the warmer weather. And so I'm very intrigued, and I don't dislike what I've smelled so far. I really like the Mandarin, although I can imagine that it might get a little bit boring just smelling the same note. The Patchouli's okay from what I've smelled so far, but I'm actually intrigued by the Iris the most, but really just to see how this wears as a full test. So next week I'll incorporate this in my proper scent of the day rotation and see how they wear as a full day's perfume. But so far my verdict is not thumbs down or thumbs up. I'm intrigued enough to continue testing these. So if you've tried any of these, they've been out for a couple of years. So if you've tried any of these, let me know what your thoughts are, because I'd be really curious to know. I don't know if I've smelled anything on first impressions to suggest that these are worth buying as full bottle perfumes. They are pretty simplistic. I understand the attraction to minimalist perfume, but I still sort of struggle with the concept of whether this is actually perfumery or not. So let me know if you've tried them. That's my first impressions of M+ by Escentric Molecules, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you soon.